The twister left behind a trail of devastation from one side of Hesston to the other. Tuesday, March 13th, 1990, 5:42 p.m. A tornado packing wind forces of 250 miles an hour bears down on Hesston, Kansas.
I said, it can't miss us now because it's only 1,000 feet away. And it came across and aimed right for the corner of my house. It couldn't have hit any square.
In a few short minutes, lives are changed forever. Homes and businesses in this small town are hardly recognizable. All that's left are twisted, tangled remains. More than 150 houses and 24 businesses damaged or leveled.
My God, the pressure, and then just stuff started flying through the windows, and in about 5 seconds it was over, and I come upstairs and there's just nothing good there. The car's gone. I mean, these people built a brand new house. This house right next here was brand new. They didn't even have all the siding on yet.
With their lives and homes shattered, Hestonians need a place to turn. That's where the Red Cross comes in. The high school gymnasium is transformed into a temporary refuge where victims get food, blankets, and a place to sleep. To protect what little is left outside, the governor calls on the National Guard. 75 guardsmen police this community.
No, I think that's my CD player.
And folks here begin to rummage through the debris, hoping to salvage a memory or two. Lance West, Eyewitness News, Hesston.
This is where the tornado first introduced itself to the community of Hesston. When it had left, over 150 homes and over 24 businesses were destroyed or damaged. But it seems incredible that no one in Hesston was seriously injured or killed. Much of the credit for that fact goes to the storm chasers, who gave the communities ample warning time to take shelter. Bob Keeling begins our coverage on that subject on the Reno-Harvey County line.
911. Yes, go ahead.
There's a tornado on the ground west of Hesston here.
We have a report of a tornado on the ground.
When I initially contacted the tornado and called in the location, my car was physically rocking.
Harvey County Deputy Sheriff Steve Bayless first started tracking the tornado 2 miles south and 2 miles west of Burton.
You became aware of how dangerous this storm was going to be and that anything in its path was totally going to be destroyed. It was huge. And I watched it destroy 3 residences within a matter of 30 seconds.
And at the time, as Bayless watched the storm barrel towards Mound Ridge or maybe Hesston,
I told him to sound the sirens for those communities, but I also knew that my home was in the path of this tornado, and I was extremely concerned. There was a double wide right there where that tree is, and I'm sitting right here, and I see that thing just explode. That house explodes. It was just gone. This one somehow, you tell me why it's still here. It shouldn't be. It's within 200 yards of one that was totally destroyed. There isn't anything I can do about it other than call in to somebody else who can't do anything about it either.
1 year later, southwest Harvey County still shows the scars from the storm, the foundation of a home blown to bits in the storm, and a little further down this bad memory lane, cottonwood trees dead in the spot where they fell a year ago. 4 miles north and east of Burton, the Bontraker home took a direct hit.
And I thought to myself at that time that it looked like a war zone, that a bomb had been dropped on this home.
Further to the northeast, formerly beautiful, now dead cottonwood groves. Bayless' own home had been destroyed. His family, thankfully, was out of town at the time.
We bought this aerial photo in February. This is the tree grove. There are about 70 trees there, and I think we have 10 left out of all that.
And the tornado headed for Hesston. Wichita radio reporter John Wright headed north to watch the storm from I-135 as it headed east. And within minutes of arriving, he knew it had become the most harrowing assignment of his life.
This is not a drill. You ought to take cover right now. Hesston, northwest Hesston, Kansas, is right in the line of this large, very large tornado that is on the ground.
Watching a big mass of wind swirling around, knowing it's going toward a town, you're always hoping that people aren't being killed, and at the time you have no way of knowing. All you can do is get the information out to people, hope that someone out there is listening.
One neighbor says this is the best definition for total devastation he could ever imagine. There's not much left of Mel Martin's home today, but we're told they plan to rebuild soon. And there's triumph in this tragic story that people like Steve and John can be going about their everyday jobs, but on March 13th, 1990 may have saved hundreds of lives in the process. 2 people died elsewhere, which of course is awful, but everyone agrees that things could have been awfully worse here in Hesston.
I'm Bryce Madison. When the massive tornado hit Hesston, it caught very few people off guard. It had been tracked for more than an hour by storm spotters and troopers with the Kansas Highway Patrol. Information concerning its path was quickly spread to residents by radio and TV.
The tornado sirens were going off and people had ample warning. And not only did they have ample warning, but the news media, the radio and TV news media, were making people aware of the tornado and the direction the tornado was headed.
It was warm, and I remember that a tornado watch had been issued that morning. And it's kind of unique because it's somewhat early in the year usually for those type of storms.
Mickey DeHook is also the police chief in Hesston. He has been for the past 11 years. He puts a lot of faith in an emergency management plan he calls the Incident Command System, a plan where one agency chief directs all activities during and after a disaster, a plan used extensively after the Hesston storm.
1406.
We have practice sessions, simulated exercises, dealing with different types of disasters. And I think that training and having a plan with Incident Command really promoted the efficient operation after the tornado.
Surprisingly, chaos was at a minimum after the storm. Even so, leaders grade the response only with a B+.
We're going to find out in the next one, if we ever have one, that we have areas that are going to come up that we hadn't thought about before, that we're going to have problems with. That's invariably going to happen.
In the meantime, Hesston is on guard and ready. Bryce Madison, Eyewitness News, Hesston.
With the same force that it took Mother Nature to tear apart Hesston and the neighboring community of Burton, the Mennonite Disaster Service set the wheels in motion to put lives back together, beginning at the ground level. We'll have that story when we return. And in just a few minutes, we'll rejoin Susan Peters in Hesston. As Cheryl Burton shows us, it was religious strength that helped put communities on the road to recovery.
Oh, look at our house. This is worse than a dream.
For Eli Bontrigger and his wife Opal, it was more than that. It was a nightmare, and one that remains vivid in their memory.
Opal wanted to go in the basement, and I said, let's get in the car. And we took the car and drove down about a mile and turned around, and we seen it come. We seen it hit our farm, our neighbors first, and then our farm.
Before it hit our house, you could just see that thing coming through the land, you know, the section west of us. You could see it coming down on the ground, and it's something I never seen before, and I hope I never see it again.
Within the hour, the Mennonite Disaster Service volunteers headed for Hesston and surrounding areas. The same city MDS got its start 40 years earlier. In fact, it was right here at the Whitestone Mennonite Church in Hesston, members adopted the theme, bear ye one another's burden, and so fulfill the law of Christ. And no one knows that motto better than the Bontrigger family.
We had religious support, how we'd all stand around, had our each other in arms, you know. That's, oh, I tell you, it's wonderful to have Christian friends.
For 29 years, they lived in their house that was destroyed by Mother Nature's fury in a Mennonite community, a community known for the endless help of others. But this time, they had to help their own.
It was great. We do it because we love each other, and it was great to help each other. It was love in action is what it was.
I don't know what support ever meant so much like it did this. I tell you, when something like this, the word support means very much.
Cheryl Burton, Eyewitness News, Hesston.
Many cherished possessions were obviously lost to the destructive tornadoes. Knowing that some could be replaced may have been what helped victims get on with their lives. But how do you carry on after losing something which cannot be replaced? The life of a loved one. Tracy West gained insight by talking with the mother of Lucas Fisher.
It was here the tornado turned deadly and claimed its first victim, little 6-year-old Lucas Fisher. Lucas had only been home from school a few hours before the tornado ripped through this area. Seconds before falling bricks from the chimney killed him, he told his mother he was scared.
He was petrified of tornadoes. And he said, "I'm scared, Mama," and started towards her and fell on him.
The chimney wall collapsed on little Lucas as he reached for his mother's arms. Moments later, Lucas's little lifeless body was found under a wall of bricks. Lucas had died instantly of a broken neck.
He was more of a cuddly boy than the others were, and he still liked to hug us. And, he'd still climb up on our lap, give us hugs and everything.
The Fishers haven't forgotten Lucas. A photo album with Lucas's name on it sits on a table near a family picture.
Just as a family, you learn to stick together, and, we've tried to keep the communication open and talk about him to the boys, so they feel that they can talk about him and ask questions, but they don't much. They don't talk about him too much.
Dixie says the hardest part of dealing with Lucas's death is remembering his precious smile, the smile of a bright-eyed, warm, and caring 6-year-old child.
Mostly we've turned to the Lord, and He's helped us through it. He took Lucas, but He's blessed us in many ways.
Picking up the pieces of their shattered lives has not been easy. 12-year-old Garrett and 11-year-old Brandon have had to learn to cope with the loss of their brother. Mom says, surprisingly, they are doing pretty well.
I always take their picture on the first day of school. I take them outside and stand them, and I take their picture. So this year, on the first day of school, I had Garrett and Brandon, and I said, well, it's too bad Lucas isn't here this year. And Garrett said, oh, he's a lot better off than we are.
Hesston townspeople were fortunate in that no one there lost a loved one to the storm. But after just 1 year of healing, the memories of that night are still fresh in their minds. When we return, we'll share those memories with you. Hesston Pizza Hut, a dozen or so customers found refuge just minutes before the business was hit. Since then, Pizza Hut has rebuilt on the same location. Earlier this month, Susan Peters returned to the town and had a conversation with some folks who survived.
It's hard to believe it's been a year, I bet, for all of you. I guess we'll start with Jason Reynolds, because you were, Jason, still the manager of the Pizza Hut here, and it's one of the more notable buildings that got hit last year. What was it like? Did you know the tornado was coming? I know you brought all the customers into the freezer, so you had to have known something. What was it like?
We knew that there was a tornado headed towards Hesston, and I don't think anybody really expected it to hit Hesston until we saw the clouds swirling just south of town, and that's when we took precautions and got everybody into the refrigerator.
Okay, so you saw the clouds swirling, and what was your first reaction to the customers?
I came in and announced that the sirens were going off for the second time and that we could see that there was something headed our direction, so we'd like for everybody to cooperate and move to the walk-in.
And nobody had any problem
Nobody had any problem with that.
Yeah. Jason, you were an employee of Pizza Hut back then, still are. Were you frightened at all?
No, I didn't think anything was going to happen. Even when we went in the walk-in, he said it was starting to dissipate, so I figured just go over it and maybe just take the roof off or something, or shatter some glass.
Yeah. Do you remember the exact time that it hit, the exact second?
I can remember we were sitting there and it sounded a lot like a train, and we were kind of joking about it because we just thought it was going over top of us. We didn't think it was hitting us at all.
And when it did hit you?
But we were pretty much shocked that when we came out and saw all the devastation.
Did the customers scream at all? Was there anything like that?
No, everybody was real calm about it, and I think up until the time that we actually heard it hit in the building, nobody really thought that it was going to actually happen until it did. We were closed into a smaller quarters where we couldn't see out, so we weren't sure what was going on.
Did you take cover like that? I mean...
Yeah, we got down on the floor and held our hands over our heads in case anything would fall.
Were you praying at this point?
I was.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was getting married that summer, and so I would like to have gotten married, you know, and I didn't want this to be it. But then I was praying for the safety of everybody else in the store, too.
Jim, next door at the truck stop, another, what became a famous structure that got hit. You did much the same thing. Got the customers into the walk-in, the freezer. Tell us what it was like in the truck stop at that time.
I had probably 20 customers, and I had seen it coming from the southwest, and I wasn't sure, but I was taking precautions that it was going to hit us. And so I had everybody go in the cooler, and I had 3 elderly ladies in there, and I had some truck drivers in there, and I had the truck drivers trying to cover as much as they could of the elderly ladies to keep them from really getting hurt. And I told them all to get down on the floor and put their head between their legs and stay there. And I had gotten up to go make sure I had everybody because I couldn't find 2 little kids, and still couldn't find them. As I was getting ready to go back to the cooler, there was a truck driver standing at the door wanting in. And I opened the door, let him in, shut the door back, and locked it because the wind was so bad. And I ran back to the cooler. Just as soon as I got in, it hit us. I didn't have time to really do much. That's why I grabbed that truck driver's leg. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on.
So basically you saved that man's life that was at the door.
I did.
He would have been dead if you hadn't gone and unlocked the door and risked your life.
I was just doing, hopefully, the right thing.
You did. Carol and Melissa Davis had a different situation. You were in your home at the time, like a lot of Hesston homeowners, and got to the basement. What was it like? Like a regular type warning, and you were in your basement? Tell us about that.
Well, I was on the telephone when the first siren went off, and I really didn't think anything about it because I thought it was just another siren going off, and I didn't really think it would be a tornado hitting Hesston. But my 2 children were home, and I thought for their sake we should all go down to the basement and listen to the TV, and we listened, and I went upstairs several different times to check, and even went outside once. And my son went up one time to look, and he said it was still outside. And I told him that was a bad sign, that probably a tornado could come. And then we kept watching the TV, and finally the Harvey County emergency came over the TV and blacked out and said that it was, I forget, very close to Hesston. So we decided that meant
get in the basement.
Yes. So we all got down in the position that we were supposed to be in. And
what position?
Had our heads down with our hands over the back of the head. And it didn't take very long after we were down. There was glass shattering, and it was the most awful noise I have ever heard.
What did it sound?
I must have blanked out what it really sounded like, but I thought that we would probably never come out of this alive. That's how bad it sounded.
And you and your 2 children were down there.
Right.
Were you praying at all at that point?
Yes.
What were you saying?
Just that we would come out all right.
But you didn't think that you'd come out of it alive?
because it was an awful sound.
Indescribable.
Right.
Melissa, did you think? What were you I mean, you had to have been very, very frightened.
I was just crouched down, I think like everybody else, but I was just praying that somehow we would live and somehow, that we'd all make it through okay. To me, it sounded like a train, like Jason said, and I just remember the glass all breaking. It all happened at one time, and all flew in, and somehow it didn't hit any of us, which we were very lucky.
How long you lived in your home? How long did you live
there? About 15 years.
Okay, so you walk upstairs, a home that you lived in for 15 years. You walk up and there's nothing.
It's a very strange feeling. It's something you can't explain, I guess. I think your body must go right into shock, and we just all hugged each other, standing up on top of the living room floor. And then about that time, my husband drove up, and so that was good to see him, and that's really all that mattered to us.
Gary owns Hesston Concrete, and you basically saw the storm coming from your facility.
Yes.
What'd you do then?
My son was urging me to leave, so we went across town and to the hitching post and sat on the road and watched it go through town.
Were you frightened watching it go through town?
Yeah, calmer than expected. I mean, it's, here it is. What do you do? As soon as it passed, we went in right behind it, and the street was blocked. I was going to go home. The street was blocked. Couldn't get across there. And so we went towards the business, and lots of debris, lots of trees. You just kind of run over, pick your way. And we got to the business. I did know the business was hit, because when we were sitting on the road, you could see a large gray cloud of dust go up when it hit the plant. And
so you watched the tornado hit your company.
So I knew the business was gone or hit. And
what'd you think?
I just looked at my son and I said, there went the business. When you realize it hit you, I mean, you're kind of numb. You just, go to the task of cleaning up, and you get busy very soon, checking out, see if everybody's okay and if anybody's hurt.
Other Hesston businesses also rebuilt over the past year. When we come back, we'll rejoin Sue and Hesston and visit a couple of them.
Company stood before the tornado. In fact, a number of small businesses along this stretch fell victim to the ravaging tornado that day. With millions of dollars in losses, it would take the utmost resolve to begin again. But as we've witnessed, willpower is the fabric of this close-knit community. Chuck Weber begins our coverage now at the site of a business that suffered serious losses.
Most of Hesston's businesses escaped the devastation of March 13th, but those that got hit hard.
Today, a year later, the rebuilding effort in Hesston's business community continues. Maybe no project is as big as the one here at Croft Lumber, where they suffered losses of more than $1 million. The rebuilding effort here, like others around town, will mean better, bigger businesses in Hesston.
And we're back here now temporary. We wanted to be in by March 13th.
Company president Kerry Crable says keeping this business running while rebuilding has not been easy.
We need to get back in. Lumber sales doesn't do it. We need to get into the hardware sales too.
Despite the odds, Croft Lumber survived amid misplaced displays and construction crews. But the real test comes when this business reopens later this spring.
Get ready for the customers to come in and hopefully then make sure the business is going to go. It's kind of scary, it really is, because you